Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shadow at Night. This is Thursday, January the 30th, 2025. And on the show tonight, special guest from What's Up Canada, Wayne Peters, is going to join in just a couple of minutes. And the big question, obviously, is Canada over? We're going to get to that. Update on the ostrich situation at Universal Ostrich Farms in Edgewood, British Columbia, close to Edgewood, British Columbia, about 15 or 20 minutes northwest of that town, from Carrie Simpson, who's been directing the media portion of the campaign to let people know exactly what's going on there. And she tells me today, federal court tomorrow in Vancouver, notice of motion for injunction stopping the slaughter. We're also asking for a judicial review. I'm trying to get the court to provide a link so people can watch online. She'll keep us posted. And if the federal court is not available, we understand the judges are pretty slim around there. They're going to go right to the Supreme Court of British Columbia. So we will keep you updated on that. In the meantime, if you're headed there from all points across BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, even Manitoba, some people are heading out. Don't stop. Just keep going. We need your support. If these people show up to cull 400 ostriches on Saturday, at any point, we want people there to document it and get the word out to everybody in the world, because they have really no moral or legal right to be doing what they're doing. Sadly, we need an expedited court hearing to get that out there. So we'll keep you updated the second we hear anything. The Shadow at Night live stream, as always, is brought to you by CanadaNanoSilver.com.
Toothpaste to SilverSeuticals toothpaste. First, we're starting out with Crest. It's a classic. It's an original. It's what I've used most of my life. But that being said, it does have its problems. First off, the consistency is so weird and thick, and I get it's a paste, but it really doesn't spread that well. And I must also say that I'm not in love with the taste. I get toothpaste isn't supposed to taste good, but why shouldn't it? But that being said, it does get the job done. Next, we have SilverSeuticals. They have 3 flavors, but today we're going with Bubbleberry. And already it smells so good. So I'm excited to see what this tastes like. The consistency is also a lot smoother, and I must say it spreads way nicer in your mouth.
This literally tastes like fruit bubblegum.
Yeah, this toothpaste was pretty good. I actually went in for seconds, and it's infused with nano silver, so it helps remineralize your teeth and keep them fresh throughout the day.
100% go with SilverSeuticals.
And here's the results. What's your favorite toothpaste?
CanadaNanoSilver.com. Again, that is CanadaNanoSilver.com. Get a hold of Kevin and Anna through the contact tab on the website, or you can call 204-808-9292 to make an order or become a retailer. And there are many different retail locations popping up all over the place across our country, such as it is. I'm not talking about the retail locations. I'm talking about our country. I want to go say some hellos really fast before we get into it tonight. Julie is watching tonight. Hello, Julie. How are you? Dan is watching from Ross, Manitoba. Hello, Mo in Somerset. Lolita's watching in Winnipeg. Greg is watching in Kingston, Ontario. Hello, Sheila in Oshawa. Karen's watching in Grand Beach. Kathy complaining about the cold. Hello, Lise watching in Strathmore, Alberta. Jeffrey is watching from the Creek. Which one? I don't know. Giselle is watching from the Sunshine Coast in British Columbia. Hello, Christine in Enola. Katie is watching in SK. Hello, Brenda in Kitchener. Ron's watching in Wynyard, Saskatchewan. Hello, Edna watching in Victoria. Bev is watching in Strathmore also. Mark is watching in Winnipeg on YouTube tonight. Whatever platform you're watching on, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or X or Twitch or what did I miss? Rumble. I'm sure I missed one. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Whatever platform, Telegram, whatever platform you're watching on tonight, don't forget to like and share. Get this out to as many people as you possibly can. And yes, Rumble, I see you guys there as well. Here's Donald Trump today, about 3 hours ago, making a very, very key announcement for the United States, Mexico, and Canada.
We'll be announcing the tariffs on Canada and Mexico for a number of reasons. Number one is the people that have poured into our country so horribly and so much. Number two are the drugs, fentanyl, and everything else that have come into the country. And number three are the massive subsidies that we're giving to Canada and to Mexico in the form of deficits. And I'll be putting the tariff of 25% on Canada and separately 25% on Mexico. And we will really have to do that because we have very big deficits with those countries. Those tariffs may or may not rise with time.
Mr. President, part of that,
Oil is going to have nothing to do with it, as far as I'm concerned. Oil has nothing to do with it.
Well, they're going to make the decision on oil and gas tonight at some point. So we're going to keep our eyes open for that one. And if they make the announcement before the end of the show tonight, you will hear it here on the Shadow at Night live stream. Wow, man, this is gonna take a toll on our country. And I want to ask Wayne, our guest. Wayne, it's been a while. Welcome, and thank you for coming back on the show. Really appreciate it. We know you're streaming to your audience as well tonight, so it's a double dipper for a lot of people. You are the guy who first opened my eyes to Canada, the myth, you and Doug Force. And so when all of this stuff started happening, naturally I thought of you. And the question that I have for you right now is Canada over?
Well, that has yet to be determined because there's a factor that that is incalculable, and that is the response and the will of the Canadian people. But I think it's becoming quite clear that nothing is ever going to be the same again, where it's highly unlikely or improbable that we're going to go back to the Canada we once knew. But what it's going to shake out like, I think there's pieces at play that not necessarily everybody is keenly aware of, and change is going to come. It's inevitable, but I think that we're grossly misinformed and deceived in Canada, and there's a lot of catching up to do on that. But right now, the reality is we've got the wolves are circling over Canada. The supranational powers that be, whether it's China, Geneva, Davos, or America, they know that Canada is the second largest landmass with the third largest resources, money in the bank, and they are the most wounded, lame, pathetic duck on the planet. So every one of them is going, well, America is going, well, we can't let China have it, and we can't let the globalists have it. The globalists, well, they thought they had it in the bag, and China was kind of teamed up with the globalists. They don't want America to have it either. So now they're all going to be playing extreme tug of war over the remains of whatever's Canada, and we're sitting here going, nobody's hearing us, not our own government, nor any other that is trying to conquer us.
You said will of the Canadian people right at the beginning, and I want to ask you about that. What does that even mean at this stage of the game?
I think that is some serious soul searching, and there's huge disparity between opinion polls as they're generated. You can see a poll that says 90% want to do this or 90% want to do that, and it's all bunk because it's all based on emotional triggered responses, and very little of it's based on fact. And so and a lot of that is exactly the manufactured reality, the engineered reality that we live in right now, and in our own government is the worst for it, having been doing it for decades, even generations, one might say. But now it's become a competition between who can engineer the reality that people want to believe, right? And case in point is these people that make the 51st state argument. Well, that's an emotionally triggered response that's not based in reality or fact, because you can't just join the Americas unless you are a constitutional republic. So we are definitely not that. So even if we wanted to go and do that first so that we could join America, why would we, so there's these process. People think it's, hit a button, make a switch, make a choice, vote, and it'll just be done. That's so far from reality. And there's a bazillion things that get in the way. And so everybody is engineering a narrative right now, every political spectrum, every intervener, interloper, penetrator into our cabinets is all trying to engineer a reality that's plausible. And that's plausibility and plausible deniability is what shapes and defines policy in the world right now.
We are talking about an entire country, and Donald Trump has made a lot of jokes about this. And I think there's a lot of people who don't take this man seriously. They think he's a buffoon. He's not smart. He got to where he is because he's a smart guy. And I think, as you point out, he knows a lot more than we think he does. He knows a lot more than we do. He has fudged some truths, but
Well, he enjoys the luxury of office. Who checks the president, right?
Right.
And now it's his turn, and nobody's fact checking Trump, which makes me giggle and angry all at the same time.
you said to me yesterday on a short text message, because I talked about this last night, Wayne. I talked about this last night at length, and people were all over me in the comments. I'm couldn't, I can't take this anymore. I'm leaving. I got called traitor at least a dozen times via message last night and today. I'm saying that Canada's done, and it was on its way. Trudeau came in to make sure it happened. Now it's just a matter of who gets to come in and pick up the pieces, like a giant real world game of Risk here. You said that Canada is going to be balkanized, meaning it's going to be carved up into different pieces. Is that how you see it going?
That's where the will of the people comes in, because they all get a say in that, regardless whether the government wants to try and do whatever they want. It comes down to referendums at the end of the day, regardless of what happens. Stay, split, go. Any of those things is done through referendum, right? Which I think is something that people misunderstand when it comes to the legalese side of it. Those are actually constitutional conventions. They're conventions gathering to change constitutions, right? So people are okay with having a discussion about referendum to separate, which is not separation. It's claiming what's rightfully theirs, right? So we're so tore up in all of these emotional realities that the actual due process of what it's going to take, regardless of what people decide to do, is going to have most of this country absolutely freaking blindsided, unless you're in Quebec. Because they've got 30 years of understanding of exactly these principles, and they are now going full force. Why? Because the crime spree is almost over. Why? Because Donald Trump is not going to let Canada fall into the clutches of China or the globalists. So that means the decades of intervention in Canada is going to be over. Quebec is going to have to own up. So they're not going to own up and bend the knee to anybody else. So we're going to see a massive push for Quebec separatist party, but they're calling themselves this time appropriately sovereignty parties, right? And that's an accurate definition, right? So that's what changes things, because if they do that, everybody else has to look in the mirror and decide what they want out of Canada. And, everybody, loosely says, oh, we'll let them go. We'll be better off without them. Well, that's not exactly how it works. It's not exactly how it works. So this is where it's been such a huge degradation to the freedom movement people that have sought to capitalize out of trying to create shortcuts and snake oil salesmen and fake paths through these things called constitutional reform. And so we have, there's guilty parties on all sides. The government from hiding us all from this, people literally hiding us all from this. And when I sat down and challenged a federal MP on this, he says, yeah, so we rule through implied consent. Well, when that consent is actually revoked and Quebec goes and does what Quebec wants to do, and everybody else is just going, oh, who cares? Just let them go. They're not getting informed on what's really going to become now the absolute responsibility of each of the provinces as well, because they're going to have to decide what they want to do as far as for governance models, a new one. They're going to have no choice. Every policy, our currency, military obligations, foreign policy, international policy, energy policy, every policy that's signed on under the management team called the Corporation of Canada is now null and void and has to be redrawn. Are the provinces going to just fill in the blanks as it was before, or are they going to want a different piece of the pie? Right. So there is so much at stake here with all of this, but and people don't, I think, fully understand the consequences of having emotionally triggered conversations on this, because when it comes around this kind of subject matter where people's emotional states are at, has them literally dabbling in sedition and treason. And that's not helpful to anybody either, witting or unwitting. So Trump has absolutely put the gamut down. He's not going to come in and invade Canada. Why would he? And this is, I covered a documentary. Have you ever heard of a guy named Kermit Roosevelt?
No.
That is the President Roosevelt's grandson, who was single-handedly working for the CIA and responsible from usurping and toppling for a regime change the Christian democratic nation of Iran and turning it into what it is, which is now our public enemy number one. If it's not Russia, it's the Middle East.
Interesting.
So this CIA regime change, it's Canada's turn, and there are three different entities that are trying to pull off this cultural revolution regime change to end up conquering the second largest country landmass and third richest country on the planet without invading us.
It's interesting, isn't it? Do you see this happening on a provincial level, or is it going to happen more on a municipal level? For example, if you look at Manitoba, if you look at Manitoba, right, you've got the city of Winnipeg. You were here for a while. You understand that there's a million people in this area. The population of the province is 1.5 million. This massive province with only 500,000 people outside the capital region, who probably would want to go with Saskatchewan and Alberta. But maybe Winnipeg decides they want to stay with the rest of Canada or something else, whatever happens. I mean, do we see the country becoming divided up again, different borders?
You tell me, in the environment that's out there right now, the way we will go toe to toe with each other in any public space and just turn right to lowbrow vitriol. How do we treat each other online if we don't believe the same thing or put the same pom-poms on?
Yeah, I know it's pretty awful, but a lot of it is regionalized, is what I'm saying. And
absolutely,
it's that urban versus rural split.
And when I look at that, you're going to see Alberta say, well, if Quebec can do it, here, hold my beer.
But is it all of Alberta, or is it only part of Alberta? Is it only northern Alberta, southern Alberta, eastern Alberta? Is it eastern British Columbia? Like, this is what I'm wondering, how is this pie going to be divided up, and who gets what?
This is where the level of misinformation and malinformation, obfuscation, all of these things. We have to remember, Shadow, that no democracy can function with a mis or malinformed society. How can you? Right. So this is where the propaganda machines, the hiding, the secrets, the cover-ups, the crime, the corruption, none of it needs to make any sense, because none of it actually operates or functions as a lawful nation at this point. And this is why these super entities that are out there, if we don't fix a governance model that they will respond to almost immediately, then I can't see anything else except for some, slightly educated people in certain regions that are going to take, the sovereignty and their destiny into their own hands as provinces or territories. And America is not going to be interested in all of Canada if that's the way it goes. F that. Do you think they want all of that? Hell no. Hell no. They know where the jewels are. That's the parts that they want, right? So and then at that point, I have to ask Canadians, would you still be so eager to be an American if Joe Biden were still in office? Because Trump's only around for a short time, right?
Yeah. No, that's true. So what do you think the number one resources in Canada they're looking at are? I've got the number one in my mind, but I want to ask you this. I mean, oil and gas, obviously, and mining for sure, minerals and whatnot, but what's the real big one in your eyes?
It's a toss up of two. It really is. It's the oil and gas sector or the ultra rare earth minerals. And that's the stuff that he needs for the hypersonics to compete on the international military scale that they just don't have. And Canada has an extreme abundance of exactly that. So that's part of his interest in Greenland, and so there's that, and then the other big thing is the territorial waters. That's the other thing. And his Iron Dome project doesn't work without it. So, by hook or by crook, he needs to put supersonic military intervention on the northern waterways because Russia and China have been doing this for years. So again, can't leave it up to Canada, can't trust Canada. So what's the easiest way to get what he wants out of that? The American people wouldn't support an invasion. So
Economic pressure. That's what he said in a press conference last week. What about fresh water? I mean, I wonder often when you look at a map of the United States, I mean, fresh water, where do they get their drinking water from? And Canada.
It's big, but that's not number one.
Probably top 3, top 4, no?
Top 5, yeah. Yeah,
All
I
right.
would say that's top 5.
What happens now? The tariffs were announced today. He says they're going to be deciding on oil and gas tonight. What happens? Like, how fast, if the tariffs hold? I mean, if Trump decides to keep them on, how long is it going to be before Canada completely and totally implodes?
Some things, weeks. It's going to happen fast. Our currency is going to devolve. Things are going to get really expensive. They're going to print more money, which is going to debase our currency even more. That is the doom loop, the final doom loop. I have to remember too, folks, that all of this is really pivotal on one subject matter. And that is the key crux of the problem. Our government cannot cannot give Trump what he wants, even if they wanted to, because they can't solve our border and our crazy migration system and maintain their loyalty to the Global Compact on Migration, the Paris Agreements, and Davos.
So this is now the way I've described this on the show in the past is you got the cabal sitting on top, right? And you've got the different legs, the different
Tentacles, yeah.
tentacles of the cabal coming out. You've got the globalists, so that's the WEF. And I think they're working hand in hand with China, as you and I have discussed before. And I think there's also the Zionist tentacle, which is what Donald Trump represents. And then there's this whole Middle Eastern thing that I still haven't figured out. And as far as Africa, I have no clue as to what the hell's going on with them. But the way I see it right now is that this is a war. And it's the Zionists versus the globalists. And what people don't seem to understand, we want our freedom. We want a real country. We want a republic. We want to get rid of this de facto government and replace it with the de jure government and all of that. And I agree. But ultimately, what we're dealing with here is, do we go back? And I think a lot of people, even in the freedom movement, would say, I just want to go back to the way things were. And the way things were was under the Zionist leg tentacle of the cabal. So what do they really want?
I think there's only one thing that I would disagree with in your assessment. Money doesn't have a religion or a culture or an identity. So they enjoy the fact that we try to attach it to this guy, that guy, whether it's the Zionists or the triads or da-da-da-da-da, right? So this is a flaw in our ointment. It's all about the money, bro. All about the money. And the elephant in the room is when you look at it from that context, part of the problem is in the Victorian times or the older times, they talk about the 13 families. Well, there's 35 or 40 families now. And right, where are most of those families? America. They're in America. So this cabal, this deep state, I'm not going to say it's Americans, but it is the moneyed few that happen to be Americans and some Canadians, right? Cannot leave their in the royals and these kinds of things. So we have to get separate it from trying to attach it to one cultural identity, because money don't give two shits, right? So
But
that
when you
is
talk about money, like we say, what is money anymore anyhow?
wealth. It's wealth, whether it's this or they're stacking the deck on crypto now, this AI bubble that is going to be the biggest carpet pull in financial history, according to somebody that I trust that has been watching this for a very long time. So it's all of these things that are combined, and this is just one giant wealth extraction through times of destabilization. That's the oldest playbook in the book. And now the difference is it's not somebody within the 13 families and the Rothschilds collecting from both sides. There are some massive entities that have been richer, that are now richer than any of those ones in our past history, that are playing the same games against each other, right? And so at that level, there's every ethnicity and I don't know, mental makeup between these guys, but at the end of the day, they're literally playing giant games of risk with us, and we continue to become more and more attached to the dependency of the illusion of safety that they create for us within our societies, and so we play nice for the longest time until they get into spats between themselves, or we catch on to it in some place. And this most recent assault on innocent, non-suspecting societies, by that I mean referring to the Mexican beer bug, that was a bridge too far, and particularly in some countries. So now we have this entire switch back to a multipolar society. And the difference is the technology, the development, the levels of compliance that they've now normalized. And with this return to the multipolar societies, what that means is they're redrawing maps, they're reestablishing themselves. Think of the proverbial mafia turf wars, but on a national scale.
International.
Yeah, or national being the one gang versus the other gang in the other nation. So they're not going to let go of the technology. Does Russia's government have the same intentions of their society? No, but they're still not going to let go of things like digital surveillance, technology, digital IDs and currency. Yes, they're still going to want that because that's control. But they're not going to force their people to take magic spiky jabs in order to obtain that, right? So the cultures are going to be very, very different, but they're not going to let go of that developing power. And that is what Trump's now AI program and mixing it with the medical program to reinvent a new reality and cut off the legs of all of his worst enemies, right?
Well, that's what you bring Elon Musk, where I bring Elon Musk into the equation right now with where you're going with the technology. I mean, no wonder he's so
he's positively giddy these days.
Yeah, right. AI, excellent. Now, here's an interesting analogy. I'm a guy. I was in the supermarket last week, and I was going through the automatic checkout, right? And somebody recognized me and said, "Shadow Davis, you're going through the automatic checkout." And I went, "Yes, I am. What's your problem with it?" Right? And he said, "Well, you shouldn't be doing that because that means you can't use cash." I said, "Yeah, I get that. But here's the thing. What I've always advocated for is the choice, right? I have nothing against technology. I mean, go ahead. You've got these automated checkouts, or you've got somebody with a lineup of 20 people, and this cashier over here wearing a mask. I'd rather not wait for the next 45 minutes so I can go home and eat my cheese and crackers or whatever it is I've got in the bag. I want to get home in 5 minutes, and I don't want to have to wait. So they were mad at me, probably still are. But my thing is, let's have the choice. Technology is a wonderful thing, but let's have the choice between using it and not using it. And it seems to me that one of the, the tentacles of the cabal definitely wants to jam that down our throats, and the other one maybe not so much.
Convenience is the sugar of our society. It's sweet and it'll kill us a little faster than not using it. Right? That's what convenience is, and that's what technology has been turned into. It doesn't really help us. Almost every avenue of it is designed to capture, control, or kill us. That's
make us soft, at least, right? Make us lazy and soft, so we don't have to actually work for ourselves. And when we have to get up and take 5 steps, it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I see some comments there. What a depressing show. Well, that's reality. The engineered reality is bread and circus, and you'll be fine. About the budget will balance itself, and we have to carry on with that. It's just kind of the way it is. Reality ain't fun right now, and if you think it's fun, I want to go live where you are, because you were probably not in the same place. Because another comment there, so they said self checkout would lower prices. That's what they do every time. Carbon tax was going to lower your energy costs too, right?
Yeah. Of course it was. Of course it was. Where do you see Russia fitting in all of this? I mean, you made an allusion to me on the text the other day. If you want to be free in this life, you better learn how to speak Russian. Is that the only option that we've got?
I that's me being facetious when I look at, because I spend a lot more time these days communicating on international levels. I want to know what kind of shit shows are going on in other countries, and compare notes with what I see here. And it depends on what kind of life you want to live. There's where are we going to go that isn't in the style or of life that we've become accustomed to in our Western societies. Where are you going to go that doesn't have the same crap, just at a slightly different level? The painting is, the graph is a little different on the things, right? If you take the top 10 things that people are want, or that they don't want, and you compare them within nations, there's a whole lot of comparisons that say, well, no, that one not going there. Oh, well, I'm not going there. You want a peaceful, quiet life where you can grow a garden, have some chickens, and not be bothered if you pay a couple of bucks? Learn to speak Russian, because it's so vast and diverse. If you just don't draw attention to yourself, you can live quite comfortably in Russia on next to nothing, right? That's what they're used to, right? If you want to have, fancy life in a Western culture and life, I don't have anywhere to tell you to go that it's going to be safe.
Is this a Pax Americana thing? I've heard you say that before. And Trump, it's an empire. It's not a country. Let's be honest.
Pax is an empire, right? Absolutely. Yeah. And they're competing empires right now. And nobody can tell me that America isn't an empire when they have 926 bases around the world.
Yeah, exactly. So what is the strategic value of Greenland? What is the strategic value of the Panama Canal? Is it at all, or is it just something that Trump is throwing out there as a red herring? What is he doing here? What is his plan?
Trump has to satisfy everybody, and that means developing the military-industrial complex as well. America has made a lot of enemies, a lot of enemies. Canada wouldn't need America's protection if we weren't in the way of America's enemies. Well, who would Canada ever go to war with if America wasn't going to war with them first, right? So if America didn't wage war on anybody, who would we have for a mortal enemy that we, so that is excuses kinds of stuff for him to continue this lack of fact checking. He don't have to protect us, but I could see why you have to protect yourselves, for sure. So, but that's on us to have those conversations as a society. We don't. We won't. And that doesn't mean I have, any less respect for the military personnel. They're the ones that pay the ultimate price for these kinds of games made by politicians and played by politicians to keep those big war bucks going and the conflicts continuing, because that's just, the business model. So, and this is where what I've said all along with Mr. Trump is he doesn't need to worry about Canada if they fix their own shit. If he's truly against the globalists, well, that takes reflection and looking within. He's got to go after not just Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. It's literally the oracles in the super surveillance state that is the enemy of humanity, established, built, created, and populated by people that have served their country well in surveillance and regime changes and all of those things. All of the best operators throughout all of these corrupt agencies have all gotten jobs in Silicon Valley. So now it's Silicon Valley that's looking at how do they govern and manage us in a digital age moving forward. So that's the next, financial wars are going to be digital. Klaus promised us, the next existential crisis would be hackers and that kind of stuff. Well, we're only months away from being 100% dependent on a UBI and a digital ID here in Canada, because that's the result of the ongoing tariff wars. They've already starting to state that they will compensate Canadians. And exactly as I predicted. And the only way to implement this expeditiously is going to be through a digital ID and digital currency and approved organizations and outlets. So boom, we're one Mark Carney away from that happening. So yeah.
This is interesting when you say that, because today Jagmeet Singh said, well, you know what?
They're already backing off so that they can support the tariff war.
Well, no, actually, what Singh said today was he wants Parliament to come back so that they can approve this plan, this mass pandemic level plan to support businesses and people. Okay.
Right.
But then what he did say, and I don't know, you could believe him or not. I mean, whatever. He said, we're going to bring the government down at the end of March. So we're going to have this election. And let's say Mark Carney is anointed. He's already the leader. We don't have to worry about Chrystia Freeland or any of the others. I mean, Carney has been picked by the World Economic Forum to be the leader of the Liberal Party and the Prime Minister of Canada. How long he gets to be that could be, we've been hearing scary stories about Singh letting him stay in power until October and then maybe invoking the Constitution so they can have a 5-year mandate because there's going to be an emergency and this is what's coming down the pipe, it looks like. Or do we have an election? Do we get a choice between globalist Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre, who represents the tentacle of the cabal that we've always known? And I believe that Harper is running that show too, that he's running the Conservative Party. Absolutely. He's right behind it. And he's a member of the higher up club as well. That's my personal opinion.
Absolutely, he is. If you look at where he's gone in the business world since being prime minister.
And I notice also something interesting, and this is maybe a little off topic, but Harper's been in the States the last couple of weeks doing the rounds on podcasts. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
And he's trying to make inroads, maybe for Canada through the listeners of these. And the podcasts are getting bigger and bigger, the ones that he's appearing on. I find that interesting.
When this digital currency and security kicks off, who's going to be there for fulfillment of of those requirements? Have you seen Mr. Harper's companies? They are going to be there for the fulfillment of those necessities and requirements. That's who's positioned to profit. So him going out there doing these PR tours, who is going to be front and mind of center when it comes to filling those obligations? So the thing that
when you say his companies, for people who don't know, he is invested very strongly and represents some digital surveillance companies, facial recognition, all of that stuff. He is definitely heavily invested in that, as are the investors of his firm. So yeah, and we're talking about millions, if not tens of millions of dollars.
Hundreds of billions they are seeding out to development. Hundreds of billions his company is seeding out. He's like a mini BlackRock now. And
He got that big, did he?
Oh
That's
yeah,
crazy.
oh yeah. He's a Canadian BlackRock now, and he
no.
is of course well positioned to leverage so many of these other things. And there's other trade deals that are on the table and all of this. And the part that's hard for Canadians to accept, because they're still stuck on this political idea that there's some way between these parties, guys. Every single, even CSIS has said since '85. Every single prime minister has been compromised. 1947 was when the UN started dictating Canadian migration against the will of the people, and they were propagandized and twisted into adopting this diversity is our strength. That was a propaganda term churned up to stop the revolt against the mass migration. And what about all of those tens of thousands of Nazis that were prisoners of war here? They didn't get sent back to Germany, right? So there's been a lot of instances where our society has been lied to, and our country as a whole at large has been compromised by every single successive prime minister in our living history, bar none. That's the unfortunate reality. So this is why, for me, I can't buy a political solution out of this. So I am 100% apolitical against, it's just because it's an entire illusion and a waste of time. I know it's the rules of the game right now, but until the people make a change, or a change is stimulated, nothing's going to change. As we've seen, we see a desperate hope in each of these individuals, and we know there's no accountability in that. The system is rigged for their own protection. Until the system is changed, nothing can change. It's depressing as F, I know, but
the comments. Oh my God! You see, guys, look at this. This is what Wayne has been talking about for what, 5 years? I mean, when we first got together on whichever show it was, mine or yours, we were talking about this very thing, about the crashing of our economy, the crashing of our currency.
I used the term manufactured destabilization. That was what caught people's attention then.
Yeah.
And that was 2020. I started talking about this because Brexit was the trigger. Everything that's happened since then, I knew about.
Have you seen the story from the Toronto Star today? And this is something I said this last night on the show. And to me, this is the polarization between the Carneys, the World Economic Forum, and the Poilievre/Harper Zionist branch. There is a suggestion now that Canada should join the European Union.
The canoe deal. Yeah.
Right.
And there's also the Kanzuk deal.
What's that now?
Exactly the opposite, from the other side of the ocean, where the Chinese and the Pacific Rim develops the exact same relationship with Canada as what the canoe relationship is supposed to be.
And so this is what we've got to choose from, Canadians watching
this
show.
Over us.
Yeah, it's great that we're the prettiest girl at the party, but are we going to have a say in any of this? I mean, you said to me yesterday.
That's where it's up to the will of Canadians.
Okay, so you said this to me yesterday. We can do one thing. Have you revealed that yet, or are you hanging on to that?
There's only one path out of this where we're recognized. So here's the thing. This is an important point. Why are they fighting over us, and why are they every last one of every last one of these entities trying to keep us beaten down and stupid and fighting amongst each other. Every one of these organizations that's competing for Canada is weaponizing us, you, me, we the people, fracturing us through these wedge issues and these things that keep us splintered and fighting apart. Why? Because we could literally be one of the top 3 superpowers on this freaking planet with the lowest population density and the basic inherent moral inner compass within our Canadian identity. If we weren't so scared to admit the fact that we've got one, we have the best damn moral compass on the planet. That's why when Canadians do shit, the rest of the world does it too. So this is why every last one of them is weaponizing all of us to fight amongst each other, so that until we have been balkanized, and once we've been split up, then what little rump pimple countries will ever have any kind of authority, say, or respect on the planet again? Ever. They fear us, Shadow. They fear us seating a damn constitution with everything that we've got and sitting down at the negotiating table with a freaking Donald Trump and saying no. Because that is at a different jurisdiction and level that nobody in our government and our establishment anywhere within it will even, if they'll literally scan you for recording devices before they'll even begin to entertain that conversation, and they will give you 1,000 reasons why not one of them will touch it, because every last one of them will end up like JFK.
Okay, so when we talk about this one thing, this moral character, this moral compass that Canadians have and the rest of the world follows, when we show that we've got the heart and the spirit to do something, and I just harken back to the Freedom Convoy.
Right.
I think the anniversary was yesterday, 3-year anniversary. What is it that we can do? I mean, there's people saying, well, there's no political solution. And yeah, I get that. I mean, the Conservatives probably give us more runway. You and I have talked about the length of runway that we've got several times over the past few years now. But what is it? Do we, send a caravan of 1 million or 2 million Canadians to Ottawa and say, that's it for you, we're taking over now? I mean, what is the deal here? I mean, do we go to a premier and say, I'm sorry, man, but you're no longer the premier. We're actually moving you out and we're actually creating a republic here. What is the game plan?
It cannot happen until people get educated about what matters, instead of, the insane amount of stuff that we're bombarded with. That's one of the things that I appreciate about that documentary, Canada the Illusion.
Yes.
Now, there's an interesting backstory to that. Doug didn't even know that was being built. A dude put that together that knew and understood all of this because he worked within that system. And he put it together to teach his grade 6 kid the truth about what Canada was. And throughout putting it together, he came across Doug's stuff. Then he approached Doug after he put it together and said, hey, can I turn this into a mini documentary? This is pretty good stuff. So that's where this came from. That's how it was built and put together. And it's had, 150,000 views. It should be 10 million views by now, because when enough people start to have and understand that conversation, it doesn't mean I endorse it, but I challenge people to prove it wrong. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
People, and I see this in these documentaries. Canada says, well, Canada has a constitution. Really? Did you know that there's still a $25,000 bounty for anybody that can actually prove that there's a constitution in Canada that's been open-ended bounty for years now? And it can't be claimed because it doesn't exist. Right?
That's crazy talk. But
right?
still,
I know,
and
that's
right.
exactly it. It's crazy talk. How could we get to this partner society when we are literally have been that dysfunctional from the beginning? And it comes back to this other quote: how can you build a future on injustice? We are the living example that you can't.
So let me ask you this then. I mean, something I've been noticing is my platforms have been expanding on all of the socials. And it seems that to me means that either there's a lot of different cross gathering of audience coming my way and other shows like yours, or that people are waking up. They're starting to see there's something incredibly wrong, but they don't know what it is. Have you noticed that there's more and more people at least willing to listen these days as opposed to yelling conspiracy theorist?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, our team is the only one that is growing. Nobody wishes for more of what they've had. Excuse me, they're starting to understand what we've got. They're not happy with that. And you ask anybody if they see the same future for their kids 5 years from now as what they did 5 years ago. You'll watch their face get really tired really quick. So people are they're it's the human condition. We don't learn the lesson until the price we pay is high enough. And when we get tired of beating our heads against the wall, even Canadians can figure it out sooner or later. And the world is figuring it out. And this is why I spend time talking around the world. It's not just happening here in Canada. It's happening in a lot of places. And the more that awareness comes out, the more, the stronger people are realizing, hey, it's the same here. This is what we're doing. That's what we're doing. There's so much good information that is coming out. We had, very few people that are still speaking in this media space are the same people that were speaking out at the beginning. There's been a massive evolution in how people communicate, entirely new environments that have impact now have been established and created. But that takes time because it's an uphill swim. They've been censoring and beating us down. If we were allowed to openly have mass conversations about some of these kinds of things, would we be in the same situation? Hell no, right? But when these people that are sworn to a rigged system, so they're trapped within it until they can find a way to spin the way out of it based on political survival, self-preservation. It's all about self-preservation for them. And until they have a strong enough unified mandate, nothing's going to change. Now is the time to establish and create some of that. But we have become so tribal because we bite on every emotional trigger out there these days. That's what we've been conditioned and trained to do.
So where is the political will in Canada? I mean, outside of Danielle Smith, I she's the one who's been making the most sense to me anyhow. And it seems as though any other Canadian politician is weak and they're just repeating talking points. Even Poilievre, for that matter, suggesting that Canada should do a dollar for dollar tariff against the United States. One of the stupidest things I've ever heard come out of his mouth. We need leaders to step up now and say that's enough of that. And Danielle Smith came out today or yesterday and defended the report of the contrarian doctors that was released by the Alberta government last week after all of the backlash and vitriol that was spouted by the left, the Marxists, the paid-off doctors who all came out and said, this is bunk, this is junk science, this is mis and malinformation, which it wasn't. They had absolutely zero proof of their claims. And they provided nothing. And yet they came out with all this awful stuff. And so many people are still willing to lay down and go, you know what, I don't want to put myself in the path of that train. And yet Danielle Smith is the only one that does it. Poilievre backs away from time to time as well. Is that what we need? We need more people to step up and say, shut up already. Why don't you just listen for one time?
It would be literally as simple as that. Couple of examples. One I played on my show yesterday. The forgive me her name, Trump's new press secretary.
Katie? No.
Whatever it might be. She showed more conviction to her nation in answering one 30-second question with 3 words, where she was being quizzed about, will you send this back, that back, that back there? But at the end of the day, the answer took 3 words. Yes, because they're all criminals.
Right.
Right. That is what we need. That is, she's just a press secretary. She's got more damn fortitude than any politician in our freaking government, anywhere, at any level.
Caroline Levitt. Thank you guys. Caroline. Now it's
Right?
going to be 50 comments of Caroline Levitt.
The
No, you're
jig's
right.
up.
But we see
The
that in the
jig's up.
United States, though. I'm not sure if you've been
Right.
watching the confirmations. The confirmations have been great. I've got 3 minutes worth of gold today. Confirmations for Kash Patel, for Tulsi Gabbard, and the second day for RFK, for Secretary of Health and Human Services. He called Bernie Sanders out today for taking money from Big Pharma. That's amazing,
That was
right?
beautiful.
But this stuff is getting out there, Wayne, from the United States.
Yes.
And do these Canadian politicians and bureaucrats honestly think that we Canadians don't hear that stuff?
Exactly. So now they're absolutely torn, because if they don't follow the example being set, then they're doomed in the eyes of the globalists. They're handlers. Then they've got, that's why Carney is here, right? He's the fixer. He was parachuted in to fix the mess and keep the show pony, the scam going, right? And so he has a very short mandate right now, C63 and 293.
So he wants to. They want to absolutely get in the final touches on
It's
their.
the only way they preserve the show pony of the Great Reset being the first post-nation state of the United Nations, World Economic Forum, Fourth Reich. It's literally the only way that they maintain that, and Trump's not going to stand for that, whether Carney comes in or not. So it's going to get worse if we continue to follow down this narrative being set by the propaganda mercenaries and the government for this trade war and all of these things that lead us to that UBI, and we're literally only weeks away from that. It's going to be announced as soon as they come back to office, and this is going to be a perfect backdoor for the Bloc and Singh to. Just this once, we'll support the Liberals. Canadians need this, right?
There's a guy called, what's his name here? Kevin Bayat. I'd never heard of this guy before. And I went and checked him out. He's got a TikTok account. His TikTok account has got maybe 500 followers. But one of his bits went viral all over X today. And I thought it was interesting. It's just about 3 minutes long. Why don't we give it a listen here? We can get a drink of water and continue our conversation after the thing is. But listen to what he says regarding Mark Carney and the engineering of this. I personally think that this is just kind of an offshoot. Carney knew it was coming, so he made the right investments. But it's still nonetheless a very interesting take. Again, I don't know who this guy is, where he lives, what he does for a living, but it's an interesting take. Let's watch this.
Don't you realize they want the tariffs to come in so that you lose everything? Listen up. I'm going to share with you my perspective on what is going to happen in the next couple of quarters. See, Canada right now doesn't want to fix the border with the United States with the illegal migrants and the guns and the drugs that are coming over from the States and Mexico and wherever else they're coming from. But what they will do is they'll allow the tariffs to come in at 25% simply because what they really want to do is they want to be able to stimulate the economy. And we're going to be given those beautiful checks that everybody got in during the pandemic. And the reason that they're going to stimulate the economy and get Canada, oh, it's okay, we're going to take care of this, Canadians, what they want to do is they want to create liquidity in the market. The banks right now are not lending money to people. The interest rates are high, and the liquidity, the amount of money people spending in circulation has dropped. And by increasing our tariffs, by increasing our taxes, by increasing the inflation rate, what has happened is they want to stimulate the economy this way. And they're going to be giving those $2,000 checks again. Why? Is because they want you in debt. Yeah, they want you in debt so that you will, at one point, lose your home. The people that can't afford their payments will lose things. They'll lose their car, they'll lose their homes, they'll lose everything. And beautifully, very well orchestrated, we bring in Mark Carney, who was the not only the governor of the Bank of Canada, but the Bank of England. But for the last little while, he was the managing director of Brookfield. Brookfield was a company that bought $1 billion worth of real estate assets in the United States. And why did they buy them? For the sole purpose of renting it to people at inflated rates. Where do you get the supply of such things? $1 billion worth. You know from where? From all the people that will lose their house in the next 3 to 5 years. If this guy comes, because he's the architect of it. He knows exactly what he's doing. And nobody sees this play happening, but I'm going to share it with you so that at least you can be educated and you can understand where you're headed. Because if you do nothing, well, you're going to lose everything.
100% on point.
Wow. That's incredible.
I've been screaming that stuff for ages. You know, they've been buying up, entire, subdivisions when they can. Every development company, is sitting on endless numbers of vacancies that they can't sell now. And at the end of the day, these guys are going to own everything. And as long as we're compliant, and don't fight for, personal property and liberty, they'll allow us to serve them, but they won't need a whole bunch of us because they've got AI and technology to replace us for almost,
You have a wealth guy who comes on your show, every week, every Friday night? Okay, so what is he suggesting for people? And this is something, again, we have talked about over and over and over again for 3-4 years now. It's about buying gold, precious metals, all of that stuff. Is that the big price of gold is through the roof right now? Does it even matter at this stage of the game?
So there's a couple of different ways to look at that. And, the first thing that he suggests is get a 6-month food supply, get your needs looked after, fortify your communities. That's what he would way rather talk about. But when it comes down to the financial aspect of it, what that company exists for is for one purpose: to help people escape the banking system and protect their wealth and their investments and their retirements. He doesn't sell, $50 worth of gold here, 25. That's not the kind of help that they specialize in, right? They know that the Bank of Canada is positioned to take your money from your accounts, right? So this is what they try to do. So they're not associated. They actually provide a physical product for your investment and store it in locations that the banks can't access. So they are legitimately protecting people's wealth. That's their number one focus. But when you look at the history of currencies, fiat currencies typically last 60 years, I think he says, or 80 years. And gold and silver, precious metals, have been commodities since time immemorial, right? And this is a foundation of the BRICS currency thing. So he's, that's what he does, is specializes in helping people convert into that if they're thinking about maintaining what they have. So that's what he talks about, and he's the first one to say, if you want to buy, $50 or $100 worth of gold, go to Gold Silver Bull. They'll look after you, right? Because he doesn't come on my show to pitch his company. That's just what he happens to do. But he's aware of the dynamics behind all of this. He's a way bigger conspiracy guy than I am when it comes to a lot of stuff, right?
You know what's interesting is I've had people over the last 3 days all messaging me. This is anecdotal stories. But they're saying things like, I went to go and deposit $300 in my bank account the other day, and it was in cash. And the teller looks at them and says, where did this money come from? We're talking about $300 here. And one of the people who told me one of these stories said, I was so taken aback. I said, well, this is just, my son gave it to me, paying back a loan. Like she told the truth. But I would have said, that's not your concern. But it seems as though we're moving already in this direction where tellers have been instructed by their superiors
Yes.
to ask people, even if it's the smallest amount of cash, where it comes from.
They're terrified of bank runs, and they are literally breaking the law to keep people from at different places in order to keep people from withdrawing their assets. They're absolutely mortified of what a bank run would look like. Did you ever see that series Years and Years?
No.
Whew, that's a Nostradamus level projection done in 2019, only out for a few months and then buried because it was far too predictive to where we're at now.
You could probably find it on BitChute now and nowhere else, right? Like
one of those kinds. Actually, it was even harder than that. I had to track it down. I did get it. I did a watch party on it, and it was too much for some people. But that's what you get on my platform. You don't get warm fuzzy blankets and cups of cocoa served to you on my platform if you're just new following me.
What you mean you're like this every night? There's absolutely no room for comedy at all.
Oh no, there's plenty of that. I mix it up. I've kind of become more focused, I would say, in the last little while. My platform's gone through a lot of changes in the last 6 months, Shadow. And I've become kind of more refined in what I do. And like, for example, a couple of weeks ago, I did a 4-part series, 9 hours worth of the correlations, tracing literally step by step, name by face by time frame in history, how the WEF and this one world government is literally the Fourth Reich. It is Nazi money, Nazi systems. Most people don't know that Canada trained the first CIA agents. The CIA was born in a Canadian training camp.
Great. That's great. Are you doing that on your live show, or you've got a different? Wow.
Yeah, no, I'm doing it on my live streams. We broke down 1,000 years of programming and brainwashing, right up through to the MK Ultra programs, through to the modern age of technology and the weaponization of the social media, which is literally MK Ultra at global scale. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff wrapped up in that 9-hour series, Shadow. I'm actually got somebody compiling that into a book.
Cool. That's
Right?
cool.
Because it's that parallel, right? These ideologies have been going for a long time, and the only thing that changes is the development of technology. And as soon as somebody thinks that they have an edge or leverage, they seek to implement their ideology upon whatever they can. So that cycle keeps perpetrating, and it's no different, right? And just now it's at scale.
Well, they've been playing the long game,
Yeah.
for years, as you point out. Some people say it's decades, other people say it's centuries, but and they always it happens once every 80 years where they try and make that play, that final play, and it never seems to work for them. So I'm hoping that trend continues.
It changed a lot, the fastest about the time of the Industrial Revolution. Right. That was where international finally really started to come into the picture for things, and that was where we see the colonization period. Where these super states, Britain, the Pax Britannia. And then there's the other thing, and the language changes over the years too. Most people wouldn't recognize, we talk about the Roman Empire. Well, that's the First Reich.
Yeah, right.
Right.
What are the Reichs, by the way? I mean, like we know what the Third Reich was, the First Reich, what was the Second Reich?
The Second Reich was kind of this period before World War II, where Germany kind of unified from being all of these kingdoms into having a one national leader, and then started out to build their empire, like the rest of the other nations did. But that was kind of the Second Reich time frame up until
Interesting, because the First Reich is Rome thousands of years ago.
Charlemagne, actually, Charlemagne, was a German, they became the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was that region conquered by Germans and Celts, basically, the Celts being the oldest society among them, originating not from Ireland, but from the mountains in Austria. They were the first ones to control the salt trade for almost 1,000 years, which developed that north-south trade industry. So it was,
Oh, this is very interesting. You talk about all the Reichs now. It sounds like you're tying them together, Wayne, and that they've been perpetrated upon us by the same group of people.
It's not the same ideologies, though. It's the endless power struggle, right? That's kind of built in our nature. We covet what others have. That's a human flaw, right? So there's always madmen and psychopaths throughout history and narcissists that seek to have control. So then it becomes this endless escalation of parity through force, never parity through peace, always parity through force, and this endless escalation. So until humanity starts looking for a parity for peace, we're always going to have this escalation seeking a parity of force. And this is where Trump is at now. You can't let China or the globalists take over the planet. America is the superpower, right? They are the policemen of the world. So that stature.
Team America, world police. You said to me the other day that if Trump wants to take over the world, he will fail.
Yes. Collectively, America can't beat them right now.
Are we talking economically?
Economically, I don't know about that. But if it's, we underestimate the conviction other cultures have in protecting themselves, and the conviction of the Chinese military, or the conviction of the Russian military, or the Turkish military, all of those things starts to become overwhelming. And if you're going to depend one against them all, then the only way that that's even plausible is if you've got an extreme advantage in technology. And I don't think America has that.
Interesting. They haven't got the dedication.
They just don't have the volume of dedication. They've been gutted and neutered in the U.S. as well.
In what way, though? Are we talking about just and I know what you mean when you talk about gutted and neutered. It used to be you'd go to the United States and everybody was flying the U.S. flag.
It's about the military buying DEI culture. It's about the military carving out people with the biohazards, injections. It's about ignoring the medical commander. I don't remember her name. She was I believe an Air Force lieutenant colonel or something, chief medical officer, who stated that if they wanted to remove their compromised flyers by the jab, they would have no Air Force left. Those are the things that have neutered the American military. They are no longer the supreme leader in weapons technology. They don't have an answer to some of Russia's missiles, or the capacity to stop them. So these are the kinds of things, when you start stacking that all up, and I'm not talking about nuclear conflict. That's not a war. It's a conflict. It's one day the world's over. Wait a few billion years, there might be life again, right? I'm talking about conflict, not war. So
So,
those kinds of things, and that comes back to that escalation of parity through power. And
but
America
don't
doesn't
don't
have
you
it.
don't you see Trump changing that culture like
He's going to
almost
try
immediately?
hard.
He has moved with incredible
Oh yes,
speed these past
100%.
few. I mean, like, seriously, he's going to
That's
compensate all of the veterans who were dismissed from their jobs in the military if they didn't want to take the vaccine. He's getting rid of the DEI. He's
yep.
looking for people who are
It's the
hiding,
only damn
changing the.
chance that they've got. And to keep the world at bay and buy some time is the other thing that he has got to do. So playing these CIA games with countries that might be a problem is also the cheapest dollars that he can spend. And think about that. When he makes one freaking tweet, the world moves.
Right, right.
Right.
And look what he
So
did with Colombia so easily the other day. You're going to take these people back.
Pete
Why is-
Hegseth being confirmed. What was his first order of business? Wiping General Milley from the face of the military in every freaking capacity, and now moving it towards investigations on him. Why? Because General Milley was the commander for all of that shit, the jabs, the DEI culture, and everybody that's associated with that is going to be gone. But it was also, if you remember, Sasha Latypova, who was covering the trial of Pfizer, where Pfizer responded to the judge that they didn't fraud America. They delivered exactly, or they didn't fraud America or the DOD. They delivered the fraud the DOD ordered, which means Milley.
Yeah. Milley was the guy.
Like,
All right.
so
So
that's a big change coming. And if Tulsi gets in and Cash gets in,
yeah.
that's going to determine whether how far.
RFK too. I mean, like, the thing about our populations over here in the West is that we're lazy, we're unhealthy, we're dependent upon big pharma for pretty much everything. I mean, every time you go to a supermarket, you see, in their pharmacy section, there's always 7 or 8 people waiting in line for their prescriptions, right? And the health food section's right over there. Go get an apple. So this could be a huge change in the American culture, which is something we need here in Canada as well.
It's not even about the culture, though. It's about the corporations that he has to go against. And people are going to not get exactly what they're hoping out of Kennedy, because he's not going to be able to go after the C-19 stuff, because that's going to be handled by the military. He's not going to be able to intervene in military operations. So he's going to do what he can, but he's not going to be able to do what people hope for. So that.
Yeah, well, now when you talk about the military, you're talking about the fact that was all developed by the American military, and that's what Dr. David, what's his last name?
Martin?
Yeah, David Martin has been talking about, screaming about for 3 or 4 years. Interestingly, we haven't seen him come up.
Yeah, he's been around. Oh,
well,
yeah.
I've seen him do stuff, but he's not affiliated at all with the Trump team, and I'm wondering why that is.
Yeah, it's still early days. It's what, like day 10?
No, I get it. But I mean, the campaign lasted for 1.5 years, 2 years, right? You would have thought that Trump would have looked at David Martin and gone, this is an interesting character.
I don't think Dr. David Martin is interested. He's way better off as an independent.
I suppose he is. And I'm not saying that he would affiliate himself with Team Trump, but maybe just a briefing,
Oh, I'm sure they're talking, or there's no way that they're oblivious. There's no way. I mean, we underestimate the level of interest that even things that you and I talk about, how far that gets moved around the planet. I know just by the nature of the subject matter that there are occasions where there are people that are only 2 degrees away from Trump that are watching, what we're doing, what we're saying, right? And this comes back to, at the end of the day, I know we're winning in the war for the minds. That was proven last January at last Davos, when they said, when they put the whole world's business on pause so that they could go after misinformation and rebuilding trust in the media. Well, that didn't work out so well for them. So, right.
To hear them talk about trust in the media makes me laugh. Did you see Javier Millier's speech at the WEF?
Oh, yes, of course. Yep.
Oh,
right?
wasn't that
You know, I
awesome?
want to know the pedos that you protect, right? And you know, that's the kind of things that those are the things that are changing now unequivocally. There are only two genders again. How are our people up here in Canada going to bend with what the political winds? That's what people are, I think, right now concerned with, and they're waiting to see it happen amongst our elected officials. And I don't know.
You know, these left wing, these Marxists, these people are still walking around smugly like authoritarians. Still, you know, at school board meetings, at city and town council meetings, they're still ejecting people for not agreeing. I mean, talk to Lisa Robinson about it; she'll tell you. You know, there's another city councilor in London who's they're trying to expel her for having different views than what they have, and so this whole neo-Marxist attitude is still very prevalent among this group of people, and that needs to be snuffed out immediately. I'm not sure if a Poilievre government would do that. What do you think about that?
Not a chance, because that's part of the deal, right? That all of that culture is an evolution of the implementation of the policies that you know, that's it's the to-do lists. Those are the results of the to-do lists when they promise to these, you know, foreign policies and ideologies are maintained in the United Nations and all of these super corporations, right? So that's been built up over years. That's where it's entrenched itself in our policy. And like Yuri Bezmenov says, you know, it's when the second generation gets into power, right? Now it's not the first kids that were exposed to it. It or those first kids that were exposed to it, sorry, are now the ones that got the jobs, are the enforcers, the public opinion. They're the librarians, the mayors, the chiefs, the ones that have made it into policy. And now it's the third generation being churned out of these Frankfurt schools of color revolution that are propping up and becoming the you know, public enforcers. So it's literally that ideology has to procreate three generations, right? So this is where we're at. Well, this is what it looks like when we have those three generations, with the youth supporting the new, you know, policymakers and the lobbyists and those kinds of things. So in America, they're going through a hard stop on that. Is Canada, you know, Canadians, I think, as a majority, and I can't speak for all Canadians, though. You know, it's. I think time
It's
is
tough
really
to
going to
say,
tell.
right? I mean, like we in Canada, like I mean, like this country is so regional that, you know, out here in the West, I could tell you, and you spent
And-
time here, you know, we don't want that crap like that
Right.
mostly,
When
right?
you look at the Canada is not for sale hat, the number of explosions over there, that's probably more of a realistic insight into where the mindset of Canadians are versus anything in the news and media. And that's the failing of the news and media as a whole.
Well, that's
Right?
the failing of the Canadian people as well. Like
Yeah.
they're buying this Trudeau crap. And by the way, where did that hat come from, Doug Ford? Was that made in China?
Those aren't the questions that I ask out of that. Is to me, that's a reflection of where is the mindset. No, they don't want to sell Canada. They don't know how damaged this good ship Canada is, or how real most of these issues are. But on that simple point, do they want to be somebody else, or do they want to be Canadian? That's a good sign.
It's a good sign, but I mean, the Liberals are playing it very, very well, right? We're going to stand
They
up
are.
to the, and I got to tell you this, man. If they find some way to somehow get another term, and whatever it is, we got to start thinking about going elsewhere.
They may not need another term if the Bloc and Jagmeet don't topple him. He's got another year. If he wants to stretch it out, he could stretch it out to 2026.
Yeah.
And that is all he needs to get his cornerstone policies implemented. And then it doesn't matter if the Liberals are never seen again. They own the whole damn Senate too. So, yeah.
We got to change the Senate. That's something that
We,
needs to
what
be
don't
changed.
we have to change, Shadow? That's the point.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Tariffs are going to be implemented on us, 25% tariffs on Saturday. Trump still hasn't made his mind up regarding the oil and gas thing. What do Canadians need to do to prepare for this? And is it just stock up on food and keep your fingers crossed?
People ain't going to like this answer either. We have to collectively demand that our government stop allowing a Chinese owned corporation to run our borders and securities agencies and adopt an immediate immigration and migration moratorium and revocation exactly the same as Mr. Trump has. And those tariffs are gone that fast.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Well, we heard there's going to be 2 waves of the tariffs from the new Commerce Secretary yesterday. He said these
Thank
ones
Daniel
are based.
Smith for that patience.
Yeah. Yeah, but we heard that, okay, this first wave was going to be border-based. The second wave, April 1st, where it's going to be part of this wave of tariffs that Trump imposes on every country in the world so that he can get rid of the income tax and replace that income with money from the tariffs. Wouldn't that be something?
Well, and that's the point of tariffs versus sanctions, right? Tariffs put money in your pocket.
Can you imagine? I mean, seriously, if he's able to remove the income tax, it's like every other country's done.
Their income tax is illegal too, so he can find a reason for that. He can do it anyways. That's just him justifying in the public space so he doesn't get beat up for being mean to his neighbors and trading partners. Most Americans, I mean, wouldn't you say, hey, you're going to eliminate my income tax, but I won't be able to get maple syrup? No problem, dude.
Don't we make that here anyway? I mean, it might not be as good, but we still have it. All right, man. Thanks, Wayne, for coming on tonight. It's been a while, and I really appreciate you taking the time, especially considering that your show was on first. So you've been on straight now for what, 3 hours?
3.5, something like that, and a few before that. Bill, if I can have just 30 seconds for a plug, man. Yeah. On Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern, we've got a international roundtable event coming up again for 4 hours, where it is the creme de la creme of guests from around the world coming on again. But this one is addressing the bird flu psyop that is going on. So you are going to, everybody's going to be able to hear from some of the best experts on all of that. Some delegates from the North Group are going to be there. Jason Christoff, Jack Maxey, James Roguski are going to be chipping in as well. A bunch of doctors, Godek, a bunch of those as well. So we're doing that starting at 2 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. So
on all of your channels everywhere?
No, for this is where it's a Freedom Train International event. I've been producing these events for those guys. We did a 24-hour. Yeah, we haven't talked about that.
No.
I did a 24-hour live stream with 59 guests across 5 continents, 11 time zones, 24 hours live streaming, nothing but interviews, bro.
Whoa, you must have been wrecked, man. Like
I was a total disaster. Total freaking disaster by the end of that. But I'll tell you what, we literally, we did that New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. We had hosts from New Zealand, Australia, Denmark, Germany, Ireland, UK, Canada, all over the place. We had Dr. Malone's, McCullough's, Alex Newman's, anybody in between, Jessica Rose, every personality out there came on for a segment. And it was amazing. We literally on X that day, out of the top 10 streaming shows on X, it's always there on the side. 8 out of the 10 were our stream for 10 or 12 hours straight. We had about 130,000 people watching live this event all over the planet. It was epic, bro. It was epic.
So you say Saturday, 2:00 Eastern. So where do we find this then? Just Freedom Train?
Freedom Train International. You'll find it on my X account. So that's the penance. That's my payday as these events get streamed on my platform.
So all over your platform, yeah, like Facebook and Rumble, and
it'll be on X. It'll be on Rumble, and it'll be on whatsupcanada.org as well, because I mirror it over there.
all right, cool. Thank you, man. It's been good to see you again.
Yeah, we'll have to do it more often.
Yeah.
If your audience isn't terrified of me by now, but yeah.
No. With you, I gotta take my time with you, because you go, oh, it's time to get Wayne back on. People are asking, and I go, yeah, but it's so much.
I peel through the onion, right? And so much of this has relevance to I had the ladies from one of the ladies from the ostrich farm on tonight, and Carrie Simpson, Carrie and Katie, and it was just 10 minutes after we went live, 10 minutes after somebody sends me a recording that I'd seen from Odessa Orlowitz 8 months ago. I don't know if you've seen that yet, but it was a leaked audio with Tam. And they're literally lining up all of the bullet points in the to-do list for the next bird flu pandemic. And that is so incriminating against what they're doing in this farm right now. So that's going to be a subject matter on Saturday's show.
Did Carrie tell you what was happening? Because the last update I got from her was this afternoon. She said they were going to the courts tomorrow. I'm not sure if it was federal or Supreme. Have they got a date? Have they got a time?
It is tomorrow. This is to do with the exemption on that, so that's not even going to appeals or anything else yet. So this is just the beginning of the legal process. But the most horrible thing is they're being told that they have to go and terminate all of these ostriches themselves, or else.
Yeah.
And everything that they've done has been completely illegal up to that. So that's why when you add that to literally Tam saying, go out there and find it, make it happen, it's pretty damning and incriminating. So I think it's time for the worlds to stand up before we're all being forced to stand in lines for the next magic concoction.
Well, I'll tell you this. I had Katie and Carrie on Sunday night. Did a special show because we knew that the cull date was coming up on Saturday. And there's a convoy moving out there as well. 2 convoys, actually. And I think there's probably about 300 trucks, maybe more, heading to the farm to be there for Saturday. And not to blockade or anything like that. It's just to observe if these clowns decide to come on with their spacesuits and try and kill 400 ostriches. They want it documented. They want it out there.
If there's so many people out there, what are they going to do? And I said this earlier on the show too. I said, what are they going to do? Fly in with a helicopter and cull them all? I don't see that happening. So it's kind of time to get out there and do some Canadian things. Otherwise, these little Tommy Tam gremlin ghouls are going to make the same play again. And this is kind of the foundation between why we're getting so many of these experts on Saturday is this is happening. They're starting out slow. They want to work into it. We need to get the big guns out now and start barraging them. So a lot of what you guys are going to hear on Saturday is going to be answers to, for, and against what's coming up next.
Okay, brother. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right. You bet. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. There is Wayne Peters. What's Up Canada? One more thing before we move to the extension tonight. And as I promised you guys before, it's going to be a half an hour with Pastor Charles Lawson, who talks about Revelations and AI. That's what he sees Revelations as. So that's coming up in the extension for the all-access pass holders for shadowdavis.com. We have some of the best moments from the confirmation hearings today of Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, and RFK Jr. Here you go.
I'm going to make America healthier than other countries in the world right now.
Will you guarantee do what every other major country does? It's a simple question.
And by the way, Bernie, the problem of corruption is not just in the federal agencies; it's in Congress too. almost all the members of this panel are accepting, including yourself, are accepting millions of dollars from the pharmaceutical industry
Oh, no,
and
no, no,
protecting
no,
their interests.
Oh, I thought that would come. No. I ran for president like you. I got millions
know.
and millions of contributions. They did not come from the executives, not one nickel of PAC money from the pharmaceutical industry. They came from workers.
In 2020, you were the single largest
Because I had
receiver of
small
pharmaceutical money.
contributions from workers all over this country. Workers,
You were the
missed not a nickel from corporate
You were
PACs.
the single largest acceptor of
workers-
pharmaceutical dollars.
No, from workers in the industry.
1.5 million.
Yeah, out of 200 million. All right, but you have not answered. Last question.
Before I close, I want to warn the American people who are watching at home. You may hear lies and smears in this hearing that'll challenge my loyalty to and my love for our country. Those who oppose my nomination imply that I am loyal to something or someone other than God, my own conscience, and the Constitution of the United States, accusing me of being Trump's puppet, Putin's puppet, Assad's puppet, a guru's puppet, Modi's puppet, not recognizing the absurdity of simultaneously being the puppet of 5 different puppet masters. The same tactic was used against President Trump and failed. The American people elected President Trump with a decisive victory and mandate for change. The fact is, what truly unsettles my political opponents is I refuse to be their puppet.
If you're not ticking off some people, you're not doing your job right.
My colleague and friend Senator Durbin called you a conspiracy theorist. You remember that?
I do, Senator.
You were instrumental in revealing that the Trump-Russia election collusion hoax was a hoax, weren't you?
Yes, sir. I was a lead investigator.
Sounds to me like we need to get some new conspiracy theories because all the old ones turned out to be true.
You can bet that every single Trump selection for secretary will be confirmed in the next week or less. And that's only good news for all of us. Guys, I don't know what's going to happen next. Wayne and I, we explored a lot of stuff tonight, but ultimately one thing is ringing in my head right now. When these tariffs come in, and they're coming in on Saturday, we don't know about oil and gas yet. I don't know. Let me check right now. I'll go ahead and go online and check right now and see if, because he said he'd make that decision tonight. Nothing has been reported in the last 3 or 4 hours. So nothing is, we don't know yet is what I'm saying, but definitely keep your eyes and ears open. If you're a member on X, they'll probably see it there first before anywhere else. And don't forget to follow this show on X or on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch or Rumble. Please get this out there to as many people as you possibly can. Like and share. We need people to hear this stuff. We need more and more and more people waking up and understanding what is going on around them. When this stuff starts to happen on Saturday, when these tariffs come into play, you're not going to notice it at first. You're not going to maybe notice for the first week, maybe 2. Then you're going to start seeing prices going up on things all over the place, and not just a little bit. They're going to be going up a lot. So right now is the time to stock up on as much stuff as you can. Fill those cupboards, fill those closets, and make sure you're prepared. We don't know how long he's going to keep these tariffs on. We don't know if he's even going to take them off, ever. There could be a second wave of tariffs coming in April. And again, we still don't know what the deal with oil and gas is. If he decides to tariff Canadian oil and gas, Alberta specifically will be hit very hard. And the rest of us, obviously, we're all tied to oil and gas. That's what our economy is still based on, believe it or not. Even with 9 years of Trudeau, ultimately, Without Alberta oil and gas, Canada's a failed nation. Just like that. All right, we're going to move to the extension in just a couple of minutes on shadowdavis.com. If you're not a member, you can go and become one there, SHADOEDAVIS.com. I think it's like, what, $11 a month or something? And for that, you get an extra hour of content every night, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. And you can get the yearly package as well. You save yourself about $100 doing it like that. New content every single night. And plus, we've got a club that's forming, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And all of the people who watch on shadowdavis.com, watch on the extension, are all commenting in the Shadow at Night community, the Shadow at Night group on Telegram. And I encourage you to go there. We're going to leave the extension streaming on Telegram tonight, so you guys get a free crack at it, and you can become part of that community if you'd like as well. I'll see you there in 2 minutes. For the rest of you, I love you all. I appreciate you all. And I will catch you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central for another Shadow at Night live stream. Bye for now.